Hey guys, in today's video, we're gonna talk about, does it make financial sense to buy a Dodge Viper in today's market? You know, right now everything is inflated. You have groceries inflated, bread's inflated, milk's inflated, televisions are inflated, home prices are super inflated, used car values inflated. Right now, it's just a tough time to go out and justify a big purchase. But if you're in the market and you're ready to still spend that money, does it make sense to buy a Dodge Viper? Let's go ahead and talk about it in today's video. First of all, let's talk about the cost of ownership. That's the cost to actually own the vehicle. Now, you can buy a Gen 1 from about $25,000 up to $40,000. You will have some that's a little bit higher than the $40,000 range. Most of your Gen 1s will be in that price range. Now, you do have one exception, and that is the 1992 Viper, which will sell for the mid $100,000 range. So they are anywhere between $80,000 to $150,000, depending on miles and conditions of that 92 car. The Gen 2 is normally in the $35,000 to $38,000 starting point, and they go up to over six figures depending on the type of Viper it is. Now, an RT10 like this in this condition should go anywhere between mid 40s to mid 50s. Now, personally, I would not sell it for under $75,000 because I really don't want to ever sell this vehicle. So if it ever sold, it's because I got a good premium for it. But honestly, guys, who's going to overpay to own my particular Viper? Now, the Gen 3 is a good car. A lot of people, they hate it for whatever reason, and it's not justified. Now, you can get a Gen 3 for about the same price of a Gen 2. They're about the same performance. And guess what, guys? The top end isn't quite there compared to the Gen 2. Now, the Gen 4 does go up to six figures and starts normally in the $50,000 to $60,000 range, with the Gen 5 going anywhere between the mid 80s up to $400,000, depending on if it's an ACR and how many miles it has. So when you compare that to the cars that's made in its time era, the Viper is a true bargain vehicle. And let's talk about why it makes financial sense and why is it such a bargain vehicle. First of all, let's talk about the cost of maintenance. The cost of maintenance on this car is extremely cheap. The oil change is about $70. And that's because you're able to buy the oil, you get the filter, and you can take a summer for about $20 and have them do the actual change. Yes, you can actually change the oil yourself if you have a big enough catch can. The full fluid changes on this vehicle is about $700. Now, with the newest inflation, it may be closer to $800 to $900, but it still isn't that expensive. And how often do you really do it? You know, for me, it makes a lot of sense to do this. And again, it doesn't cost you that much money to make sure that the car stays in pristine condition. Now, this is one of the easiest cars to really do. Now, there is a difficulty in doing the wires, is actually doing the wires to the coil packs that's underneath the cowl here. So you got to remove the cowl, then it becomes very easy to do. But the way that everyone talks about the firing order, it's very confusing when you're doing it. So doing it one by one makes the most sense. I didn't have any issues when I did the driver's side. We did have an issue on the passenger side because my friend that did it pulled a couple of them, looked at the diagram, and had them in the wrong order. So the car was backfiring quite a bit. We knew we had to go back through this, and figuring it out was a pain in the ass. But when you actually do it one by one, you can easily do this by yourself. It may take a little bit of time, but it's not very difficult. The most difficult is on the passenger side because you got to go underneath the coil packs to actually plug them in. So guys, it's not that hard. The spark plugs, again, it's super easy. Now, I do run Champions in this one. Some people, they use different, NGR I think is one that people use. But I prefer to keep it with the OEM. and it is gapped correctly, so we make sure we gapped it at the gap it was supposed to be. A lot of people say it's not going to make that big of a difference, but the mechanical aspects of this car is very, very reliable. I know a lot of people, they talk about how, you know, if this car has 10,000, 15,000 miles, what the shield looks like. You can see my car has now just over 38,000 miles, and the shield looks in great condition. So a lot of times when people talk about Vipers, they're talking out of ignorance. They don't really know the car and don't understand the concept of the Viper. So they think they've seen one Viper that's bad, and they make a whole area of what the Viper's really like. But this car here, you know, like I said, as far as mechanically, so far, knocking on wood, I haven't had any issues. And I absolutely love this car. It's bulletproof. So unless you really do something, you shouldn't have any issues with the engine. And that brings me to the other points of some of these other cars. When you talk about a Lamborghini Gallardo, when you talk about the Ferrari 355, 348, the cost of maintenance is so high. When you compare it to what it's going to cost to do it to a Dodge Viper, it's very inexpensive when you compare the two. Now, performance. Now, as you guys look at this vehicle here, you see there's a big V10. 0-60 time in 3.9 seconds. Quarter mile of time in 12.1. If you have drag radials, this car is easily a 11-second car. It is a fabulous car as far as performance. Top speed, 193 miles per hour. And it does a standing mile in just over 30 seconds flat. I think it was 30.6 is what it does at 173 miles per hour. So the standing mile is phenomenal. For a car built in the 90s, there wasn't many cars that could keep the performance like the Dodge Viper. And that's what made this car a superior car. This is what made the car a true supercar, is the performance aspect of this car. It won Nürburgring. It won the overall 24 hours of Daytona. Not the class win, overall win. So far as racing history and pedigree of the Viper, it started with the Gen 2, and having this vehicle here, it has 490 horsepower, 500 foot-pounds of torque stock. Hey guys, let's talk about the interior on the Dodge Viper. Everyone wants to talk trash about the interior. The interior is garbage. It's not very nice. All the different things that you hear about the interior on the Dodge Viper. Guys, let's be honest. Let's take a look at some of this stuff here. Do you see any plastic on this car falling apart? Okay. This is supposed to be cheap Dodge parts, okay? Bin parts, whatever. This is supposed to be cheap. Now, one of the things you would notice that this vehicle doesn't have, that the Lamborghini is notorious for, is, guess what guys? There's no stickiness on this car. 23 years old, no stickiness at all on this car. No sticky buttons, even though there's not many. This is supposed to be a cheap interior, right? Everyone wants to give Lamborghini a pass and Ferrari a pass for having junk buttons that, well, are very sticky. They become sticky after a few years of ownership. And here we are in a car that's 23 years old, and there's nothing sticky on this vehicle. The plastic is still in mint condition. Everything in this car is still mint condition. And it has nearly 40,000 miles, okay? Nearly 40,000 miles right now. And this car is in better condition than most of your Lamborghinis and Ferraris. Now, one of the biggest knocks that this car has is that the interior doesn't have any leather. But guess what? There's no peeling on this vehicle. For this to be a 23-year-old car, it still looks brand new. I mean, it's just amazing how everyone wants to justify Ferrari with their cheap leather and how their leather comes undone and and how they have sticky buttons, and yet the Dodge Viper gets bashed for this interior when it's functional and it's durable. Let's talk about something else that the Viper has. Okay, so when you get into the interior of the vehicle, okay, it's kind of hard to see the gas pedals down there, but right here, where my hand is a knob. You turn it, and the gas pedals will actually move towards you. Something else, yes, my carpet is a little dirty, but when you want to pump up the lumbar, here we go. And it still works. 23 years old, and it still works. Yes, it's not a push button. You do it yourself. It's manual, but it works, guys. You know, and that's why this vehicle makes a lot of sense. Now, when we're looking at the Viper exterior, guys, this car here is absolutely amazing. Thinking that this car was made in the 90s, this car is just unbelievable. I mean, just look at this car. I can't believe how all original this car is. 23 years later, it still looks better than it probably did when it rolled off of Dodge assembly line. I mean, you think about this. This car is a driver. And look at this. I mean, look at the paint. Look at the headlights. I mean, there's absolutely no issues. I mean, this car is phenomenal. And it's very, very hard for you to talk a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, especially with the paint, and compare it to the Dodge Viper. The seats that everyone talks about being uncomfortable is probably one of the more comfortable seats I've ever had. And I've been in Corvettes. I've owned Corvettes most of my life. Having the ability to have the top off, doing 140, 150, you know, it's just something about this. And I would hate to see what it's like doing 180 with the top off. But if you have the guts, you could do it with the Dodge Viper. So far as the body is concerned, when you buy a Dodge Viper, you're getting a truly hand-built, American-made exotic car. Guys, if that doesn't say it's worth it, I'm not sure what will. Finally, let's talk about the sound. The sound aspect of a car is what makes people either love it or hate it. That's why a lot of people love Ferrari, is because of the F1 inspired sound, or even the Lamborghini. It sounds so exotic, especially when they shift, and the downshifting and how that pops and how it makes noises. You know what? I absolutely love the sound of this car. When I had it stock, it didn't do anything for me. When I went to car meets with other Vipers and their car sounded so amazing, and here I am pulling up in mine and it sounds so bad. I knew I had to get exhaust. I knew I had to do something with the sound. I had to get my wife on board. I've owned this new exhaust system for 1 year, and it has been the best decision other than owning this car, of course. It is such an amazing sound. Not only does it have more power now, it's not being restricted with the catalytic converter. So now instead of the car just having 500 foot-pounds of torque and 490 horsepower, it's got more horsepower because it's not being restricted by the catalytic converter. Guys, I absolutely love that sound. You know, to me, there's not a better sounding Viper than this one. And of course, I'm being completely biased because it's my car. But guys, when you're thinking of buying a vehicle right now, and you're looking at exotic cars, you're looking at the different vehicles, and you're thinking, should I buy a Viper? Does it make sense? Let's go through the categories again. Ownership cost. This car is very affordable for a lot of people. The production numbers are very low, which makes it so unique and unlike a Corvette, where this vehicle here, there was 32,000 made in 25 years. So 32,000 complete Vipers, not just a Gen 1 or Gen 2, not just the RT10, but total Vipers, 32,000 in 25 years. In normal years, other than COVID, one single year of Corvettes is over 40,000. So 1 year of Corvette equals a 25-year production of the Dodge Viper. This car is hand built, the exterior, the engine of this vehicle, the interior, which a lot of people want to pick on, is absolutely amazing. Especially, you don't have to worry about sticky buttons. I mean, come on guys, if that's not a selling point, I don't really know what is. The sound of this car can be changed for $1,300. It increases the sound. It cools down the sills, the rocker panel area here, so you get out, you don't get burned, and it costs very little. So guys, for a friendly budget car that you want to own, absolutely, without any hesitation, I think this car is probably the best bang for buck exotic you can buy. I'm not just saying it because I'm a Dodge Viper fan. I'm saying it because it meets all the criteria. It meets all the check boxes. And guys, as always, I hope that you enjoyed the video. And the next video, you're gonna see the car out driving. So hope that you enjoy it. God bless and Merry Christmas to each and every one of you.